Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty controversial. It's an article that takes a really critical look at the whole house church movement, and it might just challenge what you think you know about it.
Okay, so this one line right here, this is pretty much the entire argument in a nutshell. We can come out of the building, but the building has not come out of us. Whoa. It's this idea that just changing your location, well, it doesn't automatically fix the deeper issues. You might be carrying the real problem with you. So what exactly is this building they're talking about? Let's get into it.
All right, Section 1, leaving the building. To really get where the author is coming from, you've got to understand the why behind the house church movement in the first place, right? I mean, people were looking for an alternative for a reason. They felt a growing dissatisfaction, this feeling that the big, traditional, institutional church, it just wasn't cutting it anymore.
And this really lays it out, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the building church, the formal, maybe even a little stuffy, ceremonial experience. And on the other, you've got the house church, which looks like the perfect answer. It's supposed to be biblical, intimate, way more authentic. I mean, on the surface, it looks like a no-brainer, right? Simple choice.
But, and this is where things get really interesting, here's the twist. The author wasn't some outsider criticizing the movement. No, they were a huge supporter of house churches, and yet they came to see this solution as another trap. So you have to ask, what happened? What's the hidden problem here?
And this right here, this is the absolute core of the argument. The problem isn't the physical building, the wood, the bricks, the steeple. The real problem is what the author calls the building in us. It's this flawed mindset, this programming, that tells us church is just a checklist of things we do. Singing, teaching, praying. It doesn't matter if you're in a cathedral or a living room.
Yeah, just look at this list. Coming together, singing songs, listening to a teacher. Does this look familiar? The author's whole point is that if your house church is just this checklist, but in a comfier setting with better snacks, have you really changed anything fundamental? The argument is a big, resounding no. You've just created a mini version of the very thing you were trying to escape.
Okay, so if doing church isn't about that checklist of activities, then what is it about? What's the real point? Well, that brings us right to Section 3, where the author basically tries to rediscover what they see as the church's forgotten primary purpose.
And I love this because the author just cuts through all the chatter, all the debate about worship styles and locations, and just asks this incredibly simple but profound question. It's designed to make you stop and rethink everything you thought you knew.
And the answer proposed here is a total game changer. It completely flips the script. The primary function isn't about inward-facing activities, singing to each other, teaching each other. Nope. It's about organizing as a group to be caregivers for the needy in society. It's an outward-facing mission.
Now, to back this up, the author does something really clever. They don't present this as some brand new modern take. Instead, they anchor it right in the Bible, calling this outward-focused care pure religion. So the argument isn't let's do something new, it's let's get back to the original core idea that we've forgotten. So once you redefine the purpose like that, it naturally leads to an even deeper, maybe even more uncomfortable question. It's not just about what you're doing anymore. It's about who you're doing it for. Who do you answer to? It becomes a question of your ultimate allegiance.
And this is where the critique gets really sharp. Look at this contrast. On one side, the claim is, we believe Christ is our king. But then you look at the observed actions, and the author argues our real allegiance is to worldly kingdoms, through contracts, constitutions, the systems we operate in. And it leaves you with this really challenging question. Can you actually serve two masters? Which brings us to the real heart of the challenge, right? It's a question that echoes a very old warning. Are we just hearers of the word? People who listen to these ideas, nod along and say amen? Or are we actually doers? Is there a disconnect between our beliefs and our actions? It's a tough question to ask yourself.
Okay, so after all that critique, where do we go from here? What's the solution? How do you actually escape this trap? Well, if you're looking for a neat 5-step program, you're not going to find one here. The author makes it clear that this isn't about finding a new perfect model. It's about embarking on a personal journey. And it's not an easy one. So the proposed path forward isn't some new church structure. It's a personal commitment, and it breaks down into 3 key ideas. First, you have to continually seek this different kingdom, this righteous way. It's not a one-and-done thing. Second, you got to persevere. You're going to face resistance, maybe even from other believers. And third, and this might be the hardest part, you have to love and forgive the very people who push back against you. So let's boil this all down to the single most important takeaway. The whole point of this article is to shift our focus. The author is basically screaming, stop arguing about the location. It doesn't matter if it's a house or a massive building. That's the wrong conversation. The only question that really matters is, why are you gathering in the first place? What's the purpose?
And that is where we're left. It starts with a question about house churches, but you see how it spirals out, right? By making us question the purpose of church, the author is really pushing us to ask a much, much bigger question. What is the purpose of our lives? It suggests this whole search for community is just part of our bigger search for meaning. So it's not just about what is church for, it's about what is life all about. And that's a pretty powerful thought to leave you with.